Hello and welcome to Bend the Knee, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. I am Sir Matt.
And I am Sir Ezra. And friends, we are back with House of the Dragon episode 7, Sir Matt. Let's go.
Ooh, Ez, it's interesting because Jimmy and I were talking last week and Follow Up Friday, and we were talking about the pacing of where we're at because in some ways, some things are ahead, like way ahead. And in other cases, things are going like the Dragon Seed stuff has taken like 3 episodes.
I know.
In the books, it's like that happens immediately.
Right.
And so we got to see it this week. We finally got to see the Dragon Seed thing. It went different than I thought it would. It was definitely a little more epic than I thought it would be for some other things. But I kind of thought it might have been a good moment to use some comedy. Like when the first guy walks up there, you're just like, all right, buddy. I mean, God, dude. I kind of would have just liked the dragon to eat him, and then everyone like look around and be like, "All right, who's next?"
Right.
But they didn't go that route, but it was still like it was still pretty good.
Yeah. It's crazy though.
And then that final shot, ooh, Jimmy and I were talking about that, and I was like, I don't know at the pace. It was off air. We were talking about it, and we were talking about the pacing. And I was like, that might be like the final shot of the episode is like Rhaenyra, like the season might be Rhaenyra standing there with like, 4 or 5 dragons being like, all right, let's go.
Right. Let's go.
Yeah. No, sweet. Yeah. Vhagar turned back and I was like, okay, cool. Okay, here we go. So they did it, which tells me next week's going to be like crazy.
Insane.
Next week is going to be crazy. And there's a bunch of different ways they could go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, maybe doing another Follow-Up Friday, have Ez back on this week. And
Let's go.
And then do a Patreon spoiler where we break down how we think it's going to go or they're going to go. So stay tuned for that. I'm having a little bit of electrical work done this week. Hopefully it should all be done on Wednesday so we can all record on Thursday. Otherwise there might not be a Follow-Up Friday. I don't know. We're all kind of got to play it by ear this week. And we'll see. Obviously Jimmy's out again this week, but he will be back if we do a Follow-Up Friday this week. But Ez, initial thoughts, man, on this episode.
Well, like you said, initial thoughts. I got to be careful because as a book reader, your thoughts drift to all sorts of different places. So again, saving that for later and doing something where we talk about these freaking dragon riders because, dude, I was like at the end there when like Ulf is like losing control. It's just like Silverwing's going everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, is this happening? I was trying to check the clock. I was like, is this what's going down right now? Like at the end of this episode, it was building and building and building. And it just looked so, I thought everything was going to hit the fan. I mean, things did hit the fan in terms of, the dragon seeds there, but still it was wild, man. It was actually really intense. I think one of the words I kept thinking about was like majestic, because these dragons, like to see them in this way, like what we saw in Game of Thrones was awesome with Dany and everything. And at the end, it was beautiful. The cinematography at the end of Game of Thrones, all that good stuff was really sick. To see these dragons show up and to see her, just to call them forth and to see how majestic and huge and like they're gods. They are gods. And all of the small folk, the bastards are coming forth. She's raising an army of literal bastards. It was crazy. I didn't think they were going to do it that way. It was complete chaos. They were throwing dragon seeds on the barbecue, and it was awesome. But yeah, my initial thoughts were this was a pretty cool episode. Big major setup. I thought we were going to have a bit more. The action was really what we saw there with the dragon seeds.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get a little more of like Daemon and like something like actual like turmoil breaking loose in the Riverlands. We didn't. They're saving obviously all that for next week, which seems to be the case. This could be a huge thing. The interesting thing again is we're actually like we're a little ahead. Like so it's the pacing of this is they've definitely moved some pieces around because the dragon seed stuff has been held back,
right?
And there's some battles that take place. Right. And where I think they're going to go is like 4 points ahead instead of like 1 point ahead. So it's going to be really, they might actually combine like 2 or 3 battles next week.
Right. That's what I was thinking actually, is that
and it might just be like pure chaos.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have now also enough dragons to do it. And it's a little more in the books orchestrated and kind of like this happens and that happens and what have you. But in this show, to make it crazy, I was looking at the locations. Like, we're at Dragonstone, then we're at King's Landing, then we're at Harrenhal, then we're up at the Vale in this episode alone. So they've already done that. They've done that pretty well. I won't be surprised if they keep doing that and there's not just dragons all over the place doing stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
a coordinated
Yeah,
attack.
because even Bela takes off.
Yeah. Yeah, up
Right.
in the Vale, right.
And her character is, they're definitely doing something different with her.
Yeah.
And this is, they're kind, I think this is something we've actually been holding off on saying because of spoilers, but I think it might even be okay to talk a little bit about it now. Is it definitely seems like they are going to be blending. There's another character out there, we haven't really said her name because we don't want to spoil it, but I think it's okay to say it now. Nettles,
Yep.
right, is this other character, and it seems like they're giving her role to Bela, which does cause some stuff, which we won't spoiler, down the line to be an issue. Because of the way Nettles interacts with some other characters, but it definitely seems like they've sort of either, like, I still think you could introduce a Nettles character next season and have the sort of other part of her role take place. Like, in a way, she does need to be a dragon rider. In another way, I think you could do it without her being a dragon rider. But it seems like obviously Bela is going to go try to claim a dragon. I mean, that's why she ran off,
Right.
essentially,
Yeah.
going her own direction. I mean, it's pretty obvious that that's where they're going. And like, that's sort of also speculation. I mean, but it seems pretty obvious that they are, at this point, they're blending a character, which it has caused some speculation, by the way, that George Martin put out that, remember that we were talking about that blog post.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where he was saying like, oh, he was a little upset at some of the stuff was happening. And that might be the thing, is now people are speculating, is he upset that they are cutting Nettles out of the show in favor of trying to combine some of her character aspects with Bela?
Yeah. And is that just are there too many dragons? And the reason you're bringing this up is because this is the episode where you would have seen that character, and that character's
I think
been
so.
cut. I mean, not cut,
Cut.
but I mean, yeah.
Not,
I mean,
yeah.
she should have been there. So, and
Right.
it's actually, I think a lot of the fandom really likes that character and found that character very intriguing. So it is a weird kind of blend. And you're right. Maybe they will come back with that later and just say it's something that happens at the end, maybe towards the end of the war or
Right.
something, but it still is kind of a little bit confusing it's a big curveball, to be honest with you. So, because actually other Dragon Riders, she's extremely significant. So
yeah, she has some huge interactions with another character that cause like major ramifications. In like kind of sort of shifts the whole thing around. I mean, yeah, she's extremely important. And I don't know that Bela is going to serve that role. So I'm interested to see how they go about that, what route they do. Won't go into spoilers on what it is that she does, but yeah, it's pretty interesting because it's unlike sort of Game of Thrones, where, I mean, they cut out young Griff, which is a big deal. It's hard because we don't know how the story's going to end, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but obviously we assume that young Griff and John Connington, and of course Lady Stoneheart was the big one that they cut out, that obviously had some huge story elements, right? But I mean, this is like, in a way, this is kind of like on that level, if not, like, I'd say it's probably as significant as Lady Stoneheart being cut, but more like, but I would say, like, I think like John Connington being cut and young Griff, I don't know, it's hard because we don't know how that's all going to end, but I mean, it's certainly around like that level of character that they've either gonna bring in season 3 and kind of take away the dragon rider part of her and still have her do some other things, which you could do,
right.
But yeah, it's just interesting that they are doing. I know a lot of other Song of Ice and Fire creators are like really ticked off about it. I'm just interested to see what they're gonna do.
Yeah, there must be a reason. I mean, they obviously know the story, and they like. I get that George is upset about a few different choices, and I haven't seen that it was specifically this one, but it makes sense that it would be, because this is a big. Right. Probably this in the coming weeks or something. I bet there will be a post on Not a Blog to maybe address it, and because the fandom, I've seen numerous creators, as you just said, coming out being like, there was all this speculation. Has this individual been cast? Has Nettles is Nettles going to show up, or what's the deal? And they've referenced the other dragon, the other dragons, and so you're like, well, I mean, it should have been there, and it's not. So there's got to be a reason, but we'll have to, I guess, just stay tuned on that. But It was still just wild though to see like the way this all broke down and to see really what it meant too for all of the small folk who were coming forward, but also what it meant for Jace. That
Yeah.
was unexpected. And I was like, oh man,
And he confronted her about it.
yeah, it was that was a tense moment. He doesn't have the silver hair. And like now you're taking away you're almost delegitimizing him and his claim because well, bastards can now be dragon riders and being a dragon rider was what was giving some validity to his claim and stuff, right?
But
So
he's like, but at the same time, it's like, bro, you're the one that suggested this whole thing.
I know,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I think it's one of those things like later you want like the great bastards versus like the small folk bastards, and they start to kind of there's like a tiered list of like,
Right.
but that's crazy. Speaking of the tiered list, by the way, did you get there's a little bit here where what's his name? Hugh the Hammer is like talking about his heritage a little bit, and he
Yeah.
talks about his mother and how like if you're gonna tier out the bastards, he's up there on the tier because he says that he would essentially be a cousin to Viserys and Daemon is the
Yeah,
way
which is
that
also what Ulf said.
right.
Yeah, so
So that's kind of interesting because those are some heavy hitters in terms of people who have a legit like connection to the Targaryen family. They're not like bastards of bastards of
right,
bastards. And how many times can I say how many times we
right.
gonna say the
Now
word
the
bastard here? But
right, yeah, and the interesting thing is Hugh Hammer and Ulf, they call him Ulf the White. I don't know if he's gonna ultimately adopt like that whole name in the show or not, but
yeah,
um anyway, the dragons that they both claim, right? Vermithor and Silverwing were the dragons of Jaehaerys
right.
and Alysanne, Queen
Yep.
Alysanne.
Yep. Yeah, which is wild. So I mean, those dragons have been there just sort of like I don't know when Vermithor came forth, it was almost like he hadn't seen some action in a while.
Rhaenyra
Like,
told Vermithor it's basically, hey,
yeah, right. I know,
you
like
get
to serve
you
and
know
settle
and
down
serve.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
I was
which
like,
was
and then
that was intense. Yeah,
that shot, by the way, there's a lot of great cinematography in this.
right.
But the shot of her where she's standing and Vermithor is behind her and
Oh
she's
man,
like standing out. Oh, that was epic. I mean,
yeah, that was sick.
that's like Daenerys and King's Landing with like the dragon wings, the
Oh
Drogon's
yeah,
wings. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That show, speaking of the cinematography, yeah, everything they do with the dragons is beautiful. At the very beginning of this, um, so you had Adam of Hull who was
Yeah, the
there, right, and
standoff.
the standoff. I was like, wow, they are out there. This is happening, and sort of it was a mind blowing moment. It was beautiful, well shot. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
because the right now the other side, the Greens have really, I mean, they have two dragons.
right,
One that we haven't even seen,
right, yeah,
right? Because
they were
we know
talking
that
about
We
yeah.
know Sunfire is injured,
Mhm.
and then Darren, the other brother, has
Right.
a dragon,
Just carry
Tessarion,
on. Yep.
Who we haven't seen yet.
Right.
But so I mean, it's like, but then they have Vagar. It's like, well, now we've got Damon's got one, and Hugh Hammer and Ulf White, and we got Sea Smoke out there, and it
Yeah.
seems like Bela's gonna go get Sheep Stealer, right? Which is the name of the other
Right, right,
dragon that they haven't named it, but that's the dragon that
right.
she's. I think it's pretty obvious they've already sort of like
Yeah.
gone in that direction at this point. She's gonna go after that dragon. There is another dragon that exists out there, the cannibal, and I
Yeah.
don't think people have asked about that, and I don't think they're gonna mention it or show it or anything.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know, especially if they've
It's like the third or fourth largest dragon of all
Oh,
of them,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
it just disappears, and nobody knows what happens to it.
Right,
Like
right.
if you look in the wiki and the stuff, like it could be there during a song of like the main
It could
series.
it could be, yeah. I know, it's crazy because that yeah. Yeah, it's cool that they mention it and that it's around, but, god, that'd be scary. What if that thing just shows up and causes, like, some crazy havoc that we don't know about? You know what I
Could
mean?
be,
What if it just comes out of the cloud somewhere and just, like, latches on
could
and
be,
just boom,
could
takes out a
be.
dragon?
I
Jesus.
mean, what if John's, they talk about waking a dragon from stone. Maybe that's the one.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, I did like, and we'll start going through point by point here, but I did like the humor that they gave with Ulf the White
Oh,
and his, because it's like, it was great to give the dragons a little bit of humor, right?
yeah.
Where Silverwing, excuse me, is basically just like, Yeah, you're gonna be mine now. When he steps on the egg, and you're just like, oh, bro,
God, dude.
you're just like, and he's like, oh
No,
no,
yeah, he's done for. I know.
He
Well, and
looks
then
at,
I mean, he also represents, and I was thinking we would talk about this because he represents what every single one of us would do if we got a dragon, right? He is
right.
just like I'm just he was so ecstatic and just going all over the place and like can't even control it. And this dragon just wants out and has maybe not been out for a bit and is like, let's go stretch our wings, let's go over and say hello to King's Landing, and just it was just ridiculous. So
That's her place, man. That's where she
right,
goes.
right, yeah, I just thought it
Yeah.
was I thought it was awesome, and he was losing his mind and all of them is just a big honor moment there. I mean, the coolest thing with Ulf was that I don't know. I love when you're reading the story and you have the tavern atmosphere where they're in there.
Mhm.
He's been getting free drinks for years because of his bastard Targaryen blood and all this kind of stuff. His
Yeah.
silver hair, and everyone's
Yeah.
like, come on, man, let's go. This is your moment. And he's like,
Eh,
well, hold on a second. I don't
uh,
know, guys. Like, look,
I like when he talked about his leg being messed up. It reminded me of Skyrim, where it's like I used to be an adventurer like you until I took an arrow to the knee. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
It's just so funny because I can see everybody. This guy's been, I mean, I don't know. He's been telling tales and been talking it up for
hmm
years, and now it's like, dude, they're calling you out. This is your time. You got to go. And then it just to see the fear on his face, like, oh crap, dude.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I
great.
gotta
Yeah, we
go,
need.
man.
Yeah, the show needs a little bit of comedic relief, so I'm glad we're getting it. All right, let's dive through some of the points here.
Yep.
So we have Dragon Standoff, baby. First
Yep.
point, epic.
Epic.
Yeah, I mean the thing, I was also like Teresa was asking me, she's like, wait, so who's this guy? Like, what's the deal with him? And I'm like, well, actually, like that would be her. That is her ex-husband or her husband who left.
Right.
That brother, bastard
Right.
brother.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to think through like how they're all connected and stuff. So, and it's interesting that
Corliss made it seem like
they shouldn't be able to be dragon riders without the Targaryen blood, right?
yeah, I know, but he's saying it's more because like he was saying he was saying actually it might be like their mother's blood.
Right.
Like their
Right.
mother might have Targaryen blood, but he does too. I mean, like because the Valerians and the Targaryens marry into each other,
Right. Right. Right.
all the time. So he should have. So Corliss should have some, even though he's doesn't view it. I
Right.
mean, yeah. So
Yeah.
he should.
He's this.
He would still have some because the Valerians and
Right.
they've been marrying for years. Okay, then we see Alicent, and by the way, Alicent, she has a little scar, kind of like Rhaenyra. Remember, she got
Yeah.
cut there. And then we got the lake scene, which I know, like that was like something they kept focusing on in the trailer, and I'm kind of just like,
What's she doing?
I
What's
know
going on? I don't
there's
even know
nothing.
what's.
I know, and that's the worry. My worry with Alicent is like she at this point in the story, she kind of fades off. So
Yeah.
I felt like we really felt it this week where it's like she really doesn't even have a role to play anymore. Because I mean, in the books, like
Yeah.
Alicent like almost falls off the pages.
Right.
Like
Right.
after Blood and Cheese, it's like she just like she's not mentioned that much because the whole thing shifts. And I've been talking about this, and that's why I loved the shot a couple weeks ago where she's sitting there. They did that slow zoom in on her face once Aemon takes over, and she
Mhm.
realizes like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Because it's over, right? I mean, I think it's one of those themes where this is a reality. This is a reality in the Seven Kingdoms, and this is a reality for women who are pushed out of positions of power like that. And it's like, well, what do I do now? I mean, like everyone's sort of against her, and what is her role going to be? And she's left just think she's honestly just with her thoughts. It's just Alicent with her
yeah,
thoughts out there. Like, I want to get away from all of this, and I mean, it felt kind of real, right? If it's boring, it's just sort of like, what is going on? I freaking still love her, support the Greens over here, but I mean, she's just out there,
yeah.
you,
They
you
need
know,
They need
doing
they
what?
need to find something for her to do. Yeah. So I'm gonna be
Yeah.
interested. I am gonna be interested to see what's happening. We did see the rats. I just want to mention that.
Yeah.
They showed a rat, just interesting.
Right.
So when they talk about the dragon that was claimed, Corliss does not say it was his son, even though he
Yeah.
knows. He's just kind of like, oh yeah, it's interesting. We'll have to see what's
Right.
going on with that.
Right. It's fun, yeah, because we're building towards, and it's been obvious, hopefully for folks who are watching this, like that we're headed in this direction. He's just sort of holding off until I think stuff hits the fan, and he needs like an heir, and he goes and talks to Alan, the older brother, and then Adam, who is the dragon rider and stuff. And it's so funny too that he also tells Alan that your brother's a dragon rider and stuff, and they just sort of there's an unspokenness between them that they kind of know and respect each other, and but yeah, it just seems like it's building towards something more and more responsibilities for them, more command and whatnot. But yeah, it was I don't know, man. They got elevated fast, real fast. I feel like they were going to anyway. And Alan was more of the like reluctant. I don't really want anything to do with this. And as he said, Adam really did want. He really was trying to push his brother to like, push their claim a little bit more or speak up, right, and get more prestige, if you will. So, but
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so it continues on a little bit here. Then we see the Tullys.
Oh my God.
Daemon in the Riverlands. Daemon making a big mistake, man.
Dude, can I? Okay,
he just cut down a loyal man. It's like Robb Stark.
Yeah, that was intense. The whole Oscar Tully situation was awesome because he comes in there. This little guy walks in there, and basically at one point he walks up to Daemon, and Daemon kind of has to let him talk shit about him. He kind of has to because he's like, look, I had to get them behind me. I need to speak truth to you. You're not going to say you need me. He also kind of realized like you need us and I need them to have my back. So Oscar's like, I've got to do what's right by them. And I've also got to kind of downplay who you are because you clearly ticked them off. I thought it was masterful. I was really nervous because I was like, this kid doesn't seem like he can bring it. He doesn't seem like he can kind of rally everybody and get everybody together. And the Riverlands is just kind of a crazy hot mess most of the time. So it was cool to see him in there doing his thing and they reconciled it. But dang, dude, the Blackwoods, that is going to soil for a while. That is bad. I mean, he was just following orders. But
and he did exactly what Daemon told him to do and didn't work out for him. Right. Nope. So, it's going to be I'm sure next week it's going to be much more like Harrenhal Riverlands focused and the fallout of that. Next week's probably going to be like an amazing episode.
Oh, dude, it has to be. I mean, all these different locations and all the stuff that's going down, and just the stuff that kept happening at Harrenhal. We keep getting all these different visions and stuff too. So there was a small one where there's more visions of his brother Viserys, right? And the crown, this time he was holding the crown in the bed as Daemon came back in and saying essentially that the crown is heavy and that it's kind of something that Viserys didn't want. Even during a time of peace, it was a heavy burden to him. And he's really asking Daemon, do you really want this? Are you really prepared to do this? And he's already seen basically by Oscar Tully, like, look, you did make a misstep and that affected all of these other people who now you're asking me to rally them and rally my banners to your cause, but they don't want to because you've done something dishonorable. And now we've got to kill, one of the Blackwoods, man. It's just like, so he's making missteps here big time. And I think he's starting to realize, this is a heavy burden to bear. And he has not been fully prepared for it. He wants it, but it's really not something that you should want. And I think when he and Rhaenyra finish their conversation, things are going to change because they keep focusing on this, like, he's the king consort, but he wants to be the king and she can rule by his side. But I think that these visions and everything that's going to happen, they're wearing on him. All this stuff is sort of wearing him down a little bit. And I feel like we're going to have a moment where
he did still have one small vision with old Viserys.
Right. Yeah.
This time. So it feels like the visions are almost done. And remember, Alice Rivers wasn't in this episode because she went over to deal with some stuff. And now the visions weren't as strong. So
right. Yeah. That's crazy.
I did like that. I did like that line. I don't need their love. I need their swords.
Yeah. Right.
And then I will say, when he gets up there, when the Tully gets up there and he's like, little kid, he's like, I hope to do well and go on from there.
He don't have much to say, right? He's not super inspiring, but I mean, he does come around. He does turn it around.
I guess I hope to do a good job. That's
I'm here to. It was his campaign speech, right? He was. Oh man, there was a cool line. what is it? I have it here. So in the deepest darkness comes the dawn. And I think it's just when he was talking to Oscar Tully about like, hey, it's a cool kind of line. And it, if you think about it in different scenarios, it's even probably more epic or whatever. But he said it there to Oscar Tully, and I thought, oh yeah, okay. So there's this moment where that it's time for Oscar to step up and lead, and this is a time of war. So he will literally be rising up in the Riverlands during this epic time. And I think he did a good job. I'm just going to say, I was very impressed by him this episode. So,
yeah, it was great. It was great. So, and then Viserys did say the line, "Do you want it still?" It's almost like Daemon has to think about it.
Right.
Do I still want this? Is this
right.
This is what I want? And that's something that's going to weigh on him. Okay, we go to Aegon, who is messed up, man.
Oh my gosh,
he was rough.
Yeah, that was hard to watch. Yeah, because he did such a good job. By the way, the actor did such a good job of like conveying the pain that would be in that. Like every little step or touch really felt like it was hurting, and you just felt like anybody who even touched his skin, he was like recoiling real fast. And you're like, oh man, this is rough. But you can see that Larys Strong is like that. We need him back. And what did you think about that? Interesting. Just while we're there in King's Landing at the beginning of this, because it ties into Aegon coming back, but. I forget who it was, but he's talking to Larys, and they have the information that there is a new dragon rider. And like, should we share this information, or should we not? Because we kind of, we could literally let the small council know, like Aemon Targaryen, let them know that we have another dragon rider. And that was a really interesting conversation. Almost like this information wasn't solid enough, and if we're wrong about this could be bad, or maybe we don't want Aemon to know about this and kind of put him in a weaker position. It was kind of an odd conversation, I guess, between Larys Strong there at the beginning when they were talking about that. So I don't know.
Yeah, Larys definitely is still spinning his web, but it does seem like he generally. We were talking about Jimmy and I were talking about this last week too. Is like, does Larys actually genuinely care for Aegon? And I think he does. I think it's coming out too, more so than just. I think you can kind of see a little bit like now that he's the king is like him. I think he views him much more as maybe even like he could be like my friend, not just an ally, but like a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Which Larys probably doesn't. Which Larys clearly doesn't have a lot of.
Well, and what's interesting is like he starts by his whole grab for power. He kills his own family. He's a kinslayer. He sets it up.
For sure. Yeah.
Which is bad. So he's cursed. But he probably thought he was already cursed anyways, right? Because of his foot and everything. And so he's got this alliance with his sister, looks like Alice Rivers, and they're doing some craziness. But now when he starts off by trying to seek power through Alicent, essentially the feat that were promised, she cheats on him. She is now hooking up with Sir. He realizes
we didn't, and that's a character we didn't even see this whole week. We did not see Kristen Cole this whole week.
Right.
This episode. Yeah.
Some people are rejoicing, some people are mourning, but yeah, we didn't see him, and that's sort of it's I don't know, it's kind of the idea that it's over. I mean, between him and Alicent, it's sort of she's done, he's done, he has to go to battle, and they have to fulfill their duties, and it's just kind of this bland, sad story. But it affects Larys in terms of he does not. Or he was seeking out Alicent to win her favor. She gives her favor to Sir Kristen Cole, and then we see the whole small council breakdown where she basically, even Larys kind of turns against her, and it's like, well, look, you started hooking up with him, and he stopped showing me the feet, so now he latched on to her son, and then her son, Aegon, is injured, and we have Aemon who's nuts, and so he's back to let's get Aegon back up on his feet. We need somebody reliable here, and somebody who I also have kind of a hold on, because he can tell he has no hold on his brother. So yeah, it's interesting dynamic, but I hope he gets back to it, man, because not that he's going to do much, but it almost reminds me, it's like a King Viserys moment where he comes back in, he walks back in, and he's got the crown on, and he's like, out of my seat. You know what I mean? He's going to have one of those moments. That would be sick. So.
Well, yeah, we haven't seen it yet, but in the book, it's one of those things where it's like Mushroom says, it's like one of those where once Aemon takes over, which is where we're at now, so it's not spoilers or anything. Mushroom claims that like, something about like, and Aemon may have even sat in the Iron Throne.
Yeah.
Right. Which they haven't shown that. I don't know if they will or not, but it's just one of those, that's what some people are even saying. And so it could be, maybe he's sitting there and then Aegon comes back in, and when he gets healed up, it's like,
cue the music on that. And I'm Team Green right there, dude. Cue the music, and Aegon's like, get the heck out of my seat. Jeezy cow. But he seems scared of him right now. And it's just because he doesn't have his wits about him. And he was, he's obviously he's injured, and he's still trying to get back to it, but he's got to lean into he's got to get his mental stability back, and he can order people around. He can still be the king and take that back from his brother. It's just, is he going to be able to do it? And can Laris and those guys coach him up to be back in that position or not? It's a big ask, but we'll have to stay tuned.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the dragon seeds, because that was the big deal. They bring all these people in. I like that Hugh Hammer, man, I guess, he was getting food for his kid in the last episode, and then he says, like, I wasn't able to save her. So she obviously seemed to have died off screen. I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. And here he's saying, hey, I want to, I gotta go try this.
Well,
he talks about his mother, because they've been hinting at him being important, but it's all been with the small folk. And now we get the reveal. Obviously, we're book readers, so we know. Right. But now we get the reveal also that no, he also is something of a Targaryen myself.
Right, exactly. And he hid that from his wife, and you could see it with his hair and everything. So there were signs. But the thing is that right now, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I mean, it's just interesting when you look at how he's characterized, I guess. And so for book readers, if you've read any of his story going forward, his character right now, as he is, the way he acts and behaves, is very interesting. Yeah. Because here's the thing. I guess I'll phrase it like this, just as a question for people.
He comes across way more arrogant in the books.
Way more arrogant. And I was going to say, like, is that
like a nice, genuine guy?
Is that because he got a dragon? Does that change you as a person a little bit? All of a sudden, because what was interesting about Adam in the beginning is that he bends the knee very quickly. He doesn't try to rise above and say, ha, I've got a dragon. I'm just like you guys. I deserve titles and lands and all this different stuff. Like, no, he's still very humble about being given this honor, if you will. And I'm not so sure that it just makes you kind of wonder, because Ulf at the end there looked like he was on a joyride, like
right
on the top of the world. Nobody can stop him, man. So he's like, wait till my buddies see me up here. I'm gonna go over King's. I hope they've got drinks
because
out right
that scene does not happen in the books. So no, I was like, hold on a second. I was like, well, I was like, is somebody attacking King's Landing? Like, what is going on right now?
Everyone's screaming, dragon, dragon. His buddies are down there probably like, with like toasting him, like, oh my God, there he is. He's got a dragon. It's sick. So yeah, it was kind of hysterical, but it was tense for a moment, because it's tense enough that Vhagar is actually called forth, and they fly to Dragonstone. Like, geez, and also how it shows you how close those two locations are by dragon, which is going to be planned to.
And Aemon did get Vhagar to turn around. He's like, hey, Vhagar, no.
Right.
No.
No, we're not going.
So even just there, Aemon already knows, and the Greens are put on notice. There's more than one dragon there, man. We can't do this again.
Right.
Because if Aemon goes down,
it's over.
It's over. Over. I mean, it's over.
Yep, it's over. And that's that. I mean, that he is literally their biggest weapon and can take on several dragons if like that's possible. But you don't want to waste that just by going there alone with no plan. It's sort of this investigatory thing, like, okay, let's scare this dragon off, figure out who this is, what's going on. And then Vhagar just gets a little carried away with himself.
Right now, let's count it. So you have Rhaenyra, Daemon, Ulf, Hugh Hammer, and Jace. So that's five. That's 5 dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't. Not what's her name? The other.
Is it Rhaena or?
Yeah, Rhaena. She has one.
Yeah, let me see here.
Did I get their
name? Oh wait,
backwards?
I think it'll. Yeah,
they're backwards. Yeah. Sorry.
Baela.
Yeah.
Baela has one.
Yeah.
Rhaena is going to get
Rhaena,
one.
Yeah, and even from what I said earlier, sorry, I misspoke. Rhaena is who they're giving story to Nettles. Sorry. Yeah.
No. I gotta.
Yeah. So yes. I mean, way more than just the one the Greens currently have, really, because Darren hasn't shown up yet.
Right. Yeah, dude. Which, I mean, so it makes you wonder, like, really, I guess, what are their next steps and what's going to happen here? I mean, even I am like as you were alluding to, the battles that will take place in the war to come, like, where's it going to go down at? What is actually going to happen here? I think I know, and we can do our predictions later when we're not going to spoil stuff, but it's got me thrown for a loop because of how much literal firepower that the Blacks have right now. It's, I'd say if I were them, just go in there and end it all right now. That's what she wants, right? She wants enough firepower to literally head to King's Landing and just take her throne. That is what
Yeah.
she said in this episode.
But and she keeps also saying too that she wants to do it without I mean, it's basically it's kind of like nukes, like a nuclear arsenal. Like, hey, if we have more than you, then it's like a standoff. We can essentially say,
yeah,
hey, we have more than enough firepower to wipe you out. We can end this without bloodshed.
Yeah, right.
Which is
Exactly.
still what she's pushing for, which is cool.
Yeah, true. And she's also, I mean, again, she knows that Daemon is there at Harrenhal. She hasn't got an answer back yet. Remember, she sent the one guy to go check in and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And
Right.
so this is all going to be kind of chaotic because there's really been no communication between Harrenhal and her. And now she has put herself in a position of power. These dragons and dragon riders are all loyal to her. So Daemon, who thought that he was a bigger deal than maybe he is or was, is going to be like, wow, okay, so what about that army I was trying to raise? He obviously is raising an army, but she's over here kind of just doing what she needed to do as a ruler, and she's got to win it on her own. She could not rely on him. And I think, again, it goes back to just what a badass she is and how powerful she is in terms of her leadership and what she's trying to do. And, going back to Rhaenys and stuff and how she looked at her and how much I think she admired the way that she was trying to handle this and how she is trying to avoid bloodshed. And the fact that she does go to King's Landing and try to settle things with Alicent, it just says a lot for her. And she's such a better leader. And I think that's why it carries so well with the small folk. And that's why we saw all the dragon seeds come and answer her call, which was a dangerous thing to do, clearly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
okay. Just a little bit about that. I want to talk a little bit. One last sort of thing about that scene is, man, when all hell is breaking loose and they are running around, that was pretty epic. And Vermithor is just in there roasting and toasting people, and we got to see him ducking. It kind of reminded me a little bit of at the end the season 8, right, where John is sitting there and he's in Viserion is attacking him. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he's at now that he's an ice dragon and John's having to duck and dodge,
Dude.
and he holds the dragon off while Arya goes in there. That's kind of remind me a little bit of here because we get that same shot of the dragon just marching around. Very epic, very cool. And then when Hugh goes up to it and he's like, "Hey, I'm ready. All right, just if you're gonna bring it, bring it." And then
Bring it. Yeah.
okay.
Right. And then
He stood strong.
But that's interesting. So I think, weren't we reading about something in a Not a Blog post or whatever last time where you guys were talking about, George said that there will be some information about how
Dragons bond,
how they bond and stuff. Is that coming up in his main series? Yeah, main series. Okay, because it is confusing, right? You're watching this and you're like, well, do they respect your power, your authority? Is it just your blood? That's what the main thing right now seems to be. These are bastards. They're dragon seeds. They have the Targaryen blood of the dragon. But it seems to be more than that because they all have the blood of the dragon, but they're all not.
I would have to. It seems. I think what I'm seeing now with the dragon bonding is it's not just the Valyrian, Targaryen blood that the dragons have. It seems like each dragon, as they have their own personality, also seem to respond to different things.
Yeah,
because right. So Sea Smoke sought out Adam of Hall.
Yeah.
Right. And Silverwing basically just same thing to Ulf says, all right, you're my you're my rider, right? And we don't know who his parents are, so maybe closer back up to Jaehaerys and stuff like that. So maybe that's why his line comes from the same thing, just like Sea Smoke obviously sought out the brother of its former rider, whereas Vhagar was claimed. But I actually saw somebody sent us a very interesting raven at one point talking about how Vhagar, if you think about it, like Vhagar was claimed almost immediately after having to take out, its former rider, right, in Daemon's wife, and Laena Velaryon, right? He had to take her out, so it's almost like he was in grief because it had just happened. It's literally.
I see what you're saying. So maybe like sort of
it's basically at like that funeral, right? And so it's like Vhagar's in grief. So then here comes Aemond, and so it's almost kind of like, all right, hey, like well, not that Aemond took advantage of it, you know what I mean? But
no,
you're in like
an emotional
grief,
state.
like
it
could be.
there could be something in terms
and it
of
could have been any rider, but now
right.
it was just the first person. I'm sure it also had something to do with Aemond and who Aemond ultimately is and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
sort of same strong personality. But that was just something kind of interesting. But it might be right because
Well,
they talked about how Sea Smoke was lonely.
yeah, so I was gonna say maybe they all have different needs, and they have and all these different personalities are also all eligible in terms of their Targaryen blood and dragon blood, but it's sort of like what does that dragon need in terms of
Respond
a
to.
rider? Yeah, or what's gonna be what's gonna balance them out, if you will, maybe.
Yeah, because
So
last week, remember when Sir Stefan tried to take Vermithor?
yeah,
We talked about it last week, and if you watch that episode, it's almost like did he actually have the dragon? Because
I know.
it seemed like he had it, and then he sort of turned around and be like, "Oh, I've got it," and then
Right.
the dragon was like, "No." So had he not turned around,
Hmm.
he would have actually been able to claim it because that's maybe what Vermithor believes in more is that like strong
Hmm.
thing, right? The only other thing we really see is in Game of Thrones. Obviously, it's hard with Daenerys because Daenerys in the show has some
Right.
kind of a bond with all three of her dragons, even though, I mean, obviously the bond is most strong with Drogon,
Yeah.
but even Drogon is warm to Jon Snow. Remember, Drogon even
Oh
like
yeah.
bends down and is like, "Hey, what's up?" And then I'm glad actually why I'm kind of glad they added that shot here of Daenerys, or I'm sorry, of Rhaenyra with Vermithor, where Vermithor even reaches out to say, "Okay, like you can pet me," because we haven't really
Yeah.
seen
True. Right.
we haven't really seen people like interact with other people's dragons.
Right. So you have those dragon tamers too, who are that order where they do a lot of this interaction and work with them, and there's some sort of respect. They're not necessarily riders, but there's still this understanding and it's a mentality and or I guess maybe just it's a state of being when you're approaching the dragon, what your intent is and what you're trying to do, because they're there and they're allowed to also not maybe touch, but they are feeding and working with and speaking to them. And so it was cool to see her as a dragon rider and this sort of tiered approach that maybe since she is a dragon rider, she's commands more respect or has greater authority and can clearly call one of them forth, which that gave me chills. That's sort of the thing that this
Yeah.
kid is like, okay, she just steps up there and calls the dragon forth, and you're like, wow. And the dragon listens, and you're like, okay, this is really magical.
That
This is kind of
that
big.
was epic.
Yeah,
It was a
big
sweet
deal.
shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a sweet
The
shot. All
bronze
right.
fury. Oh, she got man.
Insane. Okay, I'm gonna pull up some of let me get this going here. Just some of the polls and stuff like that. See what everyone's saying.
Yeah. What are people saying
Um,
on some
we'll,
Twitter
s-
stuff
we'll
too here? Because this was a big episode, and I'm sure there's going to be some. It's just exciting to see up close and personal the dragons, and I just don't think we've seen. Again, we've seen them, but I mean, just to see this whole process go down it's been a big secret, and it's been something that has been mysterious. So
Yeah. All right. Let me get it pulled up here. Sorry. I just, by the way, in case I sound weird or things look weird or things are taking an extra second,
oh, you're
um,
good.
oh, it's not going to let me because I had to switch over. I switched over some stuff. I can add it in post on the episode,
Yeah, that's fine.
for YouTube and just add in the thing. But yeah, so here we go. On our poll, we have 300 votes currently, 79% 5-star. So a lot of people
Oh,
seem to really like this episode.
let's go. Yeah, I mean, I figured people would because it's just one. It lives up in terms of the cinematography, the acting again across the board. Nothing drops, nothing falls off. Even this new introduction of Oscar Tully, this kid actor showing up and does a great freaking job. It's just a high caliber production, and the cinematography is great. Yeah, so I expected that. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, let's see what some of the people saying here, and we'll get this going here. Hugh the Hammer screaming fearlessly, and Vermithor's face was epic. That was an awesome. That was an awesome ride. Great episode, second best of the season so far. My man Rhaenyra standing with Vermithor, loved it. But the most exciting part of the episode for me was the episode 8 preview. Okay, so they haven't shown that yet. The Dragon Seed carnage was epic. So Hugh's mother was a Targaryen blood and Balon's half sister, perhaps.
Right.
Letting
Right.
Aemon go when you outnumber him by a lot is one of the worst writing decisions I've seen on the show, like the episode, but that really infuriated me. yeah, other people are commenting saying they didn't let him go, he ran away.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. That's just. Hey, look, Sith Menace in here as saying it was effing crap and boring. Got the Sith in here, just get the
here.
Sith as the Sith. I bring Ez back on for an episode, and we literally get infiltrated by the Sith.
Freaking Sith Lord, dude! Like, shut up, people. This okay? You want to go watch a terrible TV show? Go watch the most recent Star Wars show. Okay, this show is actually fire. House of the Dragon is literally fire. It's amazing. But yeah man, God, dude, I'm just watching again. I have it over here to the side, so I keep looking over just the scene where she's touching Vermithor, and she's got her gaze is down, and the way she looks and touches, and the fierceness in her eye, and everything. It's crazy. And then the fact that she leaves and just lets all of them roast. I was talking to Lottie, and she's kind of like, "Why didn't they like go one by one? Why didn't everybody just sort of step back? Even the guards get roasted, dude."
I know.
So and again,
I'd be like, back up, man.
Yeah, this was just a ballsy move. I honestly could not believe how close they all were to just being annihilated. And
yeah. Let me pull. I'm going to pull some other shots on here. Oh, MJ, gray area. We've had her on the show, and we've been on her show before. She said, "Sadly, I feel they had no idea what to do with Alicent this episode." I agree. Yeah, I feel like the writers, now that she's not as present in the books, are kind of like, I don't really know what to do with her.
Yeah, I know. It's what are they going to do? I mean, there is a moment coming up for her that I can think of, but it's not good. She just kind of has to.
She doesn't really have a big moment again until like it's probably gonna be like season 2.
Yeah, it's just gonna be
or season 3. I should say.
It's gonna be it's gonna be bad. It's she's gonna go away for a while. So seemingly, and she's kind of just drifting aimlessly through this episode. But I mean, like you said, no Sir Kristen Cole. They really don't focus. It's all dragon seeds. It's all about the dragons, all about the blacks building their power and building their campaign. So
yeah. Let me just one last thing here, pull up here and see what some other people are thinking here.
Yeah, just as you're pulling it up, I'll talk a little bit about just like the pacing has been interesting because this has been a slow sort of build, kind of. I mean, there's been some tense moments. There's definitely been with Melee a big moment that we had and stuff, but it just still does feel like things are slowly creeping out and houses are starting to align, and we're hearing that the Lannisters are marshaling their forces and people are moving into position for our finale, right? And that's really what's going down, is that they're building towards this epic finale, which I hope it's like an hour and 15-20 minutes. I mean, I really hope it's nuts.
Yeah. I'm just pulling up what some people are saying over in like Westeros, which is another one I pulled up, and a lot of people are just saying loved it. People are talking about the preview, which by the way looks insane.
Really, I haven't even seen it yet. Oh god.
Yeah, I mean that's like all spoiler territory, because I'm looking at a shot right now which changes like everything.
What? Hold on.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a follow-up Friday this week. Hopefully my electric panel, I'll get it all, see what all's going on with that, so I'm not totally out of commission. But yeah, we're gonna have to do another spoiler edition, because I'm looking at a shot right now which changes everything. Just one shot from this panel I think is going to go in a totally different direction.
But that is awesome. I remember even before season 1 talking about there is room for interpretation in this, and so I think George is still happy with a lot of that. With the way he wrote everything and set this up, is there is room for interpretation, and what we saw with like Hugh the Hammer and some of the Dragon Seed stuff here, it's been cool for them to bring these characters to life, and even for Aegon, the king, right? So for him to kind of build that character out, and how is he going to act and behave, what's going to be going on with him. I feel like I guess, but I haven't seen the shot that you're referring to, but I'm guessing that they are taking some liberties maybe and moving some stuff around. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, Ez, where can people find you on the internet, man?
Hey, you can check me out. So go to my handle at @Womprat_2M. Again, same as it's always been. You got the link tree on there. Just finished up an episode with Matt. Actually, we did talk about Acolyte season 1, and we'll kind of continue. I think actually for a while I'm going to be do a few episodes, just wrapping that up, and then we're going to be still doing Shell Cottage Radio, talking some Harry Potter stuff. But for right now, that's where you guys can find me. Check it out. We're just kind of be kind of after the Acolyte. I swear to you, I'm a little turned off in terms of just like even talking anything, Star Wars. So I'm more than happy. I'm digging deep in here to the old histories and the Targaryen lineage and whatnot, because it's just better TV. It's more fascinating. It's better storytelling, flat out. So that's all there's to say about it. But yeah, thanks, man. This has been great. And then yeah, when you and Sir Jimmy get together this week, man, or whatever with spoilers, let's freaking go, dude.
Yeah. We might have to do another big old Patreon episode. Like I said, I have a little bit of housework being done this week, and getting a new electrical panel, and
hey, you gotta upgrade
the electric. I guess the electric, they got to turn it off for like 8 hours or something. It might take 2 days. We'll have to see. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. But
yeah.
So with that, stay tuned. There may or may not be a follow-up Friday. I'm going to imagine there is going to be one this week, but certainly if not, we will be back obviously for the season finale, of course. So with that, guys, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And remember that winter is coming.